Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are really plunging headfirst into a topic that feels incredibly current,
Mm-hmm.
not just for companies in Spain, but frankly for anyone thinking about the future of work globally. We're doing a deep dive into the rapid and fascinating shifts happening in human resources in Spain right now, specifically looking ahead to 2025.
That's right. Yeah, we've taken a look at a really insightful article. It's called HR Changes in Spain 2025. Changes happening now with case studies. And it gives us this fantastic kind of real-time view of a landscape that's just transforming before our eyes.
It really is. And our mission today is basically to unpack the most significant forces shaping the Spanish workplace.
Mhm.
We're talking about some pretty big stuff here.
Yeah.
Major new laws, accelerated tech adoption, and the fundamental evolution of what employees expect from their jobs and their employers.
Hmm.
We want to go beyond just summarizing.
Yeah.
Really see what practical lessons we can pull from how leading Spanish companies are actually, navigating this stuff on the ground.
Right. And for you, our listener, this is your shortcut. It's a way to quickly understand a complex, fast-moving environment. We're going to pull out the most important nuggets, look at some compelling real-world examples, and hopefully give you some genuine aha moments along the way.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. The article paints this picture of Spain's HR environment right now in June 2025, being at this absolute crossroads. It feels like everything's hitting at once, driven by a few major interconnected forces.
Exactly. You've got these really sweeping labor reforms coming into force. Then there's this massive acceleration in technological adoption, particularly AI, which we'll get into. And then layered on top of that are these rapidly shifting expectations from employees around, well-being, flexibility, inclusion.
Hmm.
It's not just one thing, it's a whole convergence.
And you get the sense from the source that companies aren't just trying to survive these changes, are they?
Yeah.
Like the goal isn't just compliance.
No, not at all.
They're trying to figure out how to leverage these shifts, using digital tools, innovative strategies to actually get ahead, to attract the best people, keep them, help them grow.
Absolutely. What's fascinating here is that many are seeing these changes not just as hurdles, but actually as powerful catalysts for modernization, for finding completely new ways to operate and engage their workforce.
Which brings us right into perhaps the most talked about change,
Yeah.
those extensive labor law reforms. The big one, the one that's really making waves, is the reduction of the standard work week.
Yes, this is huge. It's a landmark piece of legislation for Spain. They are making the move to a 37.5-hour work week, down from 40 hours.
Okay.
And the key point the article really stresses is that this is happening without a reduction in salary.
Right. No pay cut.
No pay cut. It's being called the most significant labor reform since, 1983.
Wow. 1983.
Yeah.
That really puts the scale of this change into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
So for companies, the immediate challenge is obvious. How do you maintain productivity and output with literally less working time? It forces a fundamental rethink of scheduling, efficiency.
Everything.
But it's not just about fewer hours, is it? There's also this huge push for transparency around those hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, hand in hand with the work week change is a mandatory requirement for digital time tracking.
Okay.
Every business, regardless of size, must implement electronic systems to accurately record working hours for all employees.
So no more just like signing in and out on a paper sheet, potentially. It has to be digital, auditable.
Precisely, that's the idea. It's partly about modernizing HR admin, yes, but primarily ensuring clear accountability and compliance with the new limits on working hours for both the employer and the employee.
Okay, so they've got this new law demanding fewer hours and mandatory digital tracking. How are companies actually implementing this without everything grinding to a halt? This is where those case studies from the article become really insightful. CaixaBank is highlighted as an early mover here.
Yeah, CaixaBank was really proactive on this. They jumped on implementing advanced digital time tracking solutions early and, crucially, integrated it with their workforce management software.
Right. And the real upside they found, I mean, beyond just ticking the compliance box, what difference did having that granular digital data make for them? Were there unexpected benefits?
Well, that's the crucial insight, isn't it? They realized this wasn't just about control or monitoring. The data gave them visibility they simply didn't have before. They could see exactly how work time was being distributed, spot bottlenecks, understand actual work patterns, which, wasn't always what they initially assumed. This visibility became a powerful tool for optimization.
Right.
It allowed them to create more genuinely flexible scheduling options and critically prove where improvements in work-life balance were actually leading to better outcomes. This was especially vital as they navigated managing a hybrid workforce seamlessly across remote and office settings. It basically turned a compliance requirement into a strategic advantage for workforce planning.
That's fascinating, how a legal mandate can trigger that kind of operational innovation.
Okay, so moving from the legal framework to the tools being used within it. Let's talk technology, specifically AI.
Hmm.
The article points to AI integration being major shakeup number 2, linked with what they term ethical HR. AI is becoming a much bigger player in HR functions across Spain.
Indeed. Yeah, the source notes that nearly 20% of Spanish companies are already using AI systems in some capacity. Unsurprisingly, adoption rates are higher in tech services and larger organizations that, have the resources to implement it properly.
And they're using it for things like, what, automating the initial sift through candidate applications,
Mhm.
streamlining onboarding, or maybe personalizing employee training paths?
Yes, exactly. Those are key areas of application. But the article emphasizes that the conversation is moving beyond just the initial, wow, AI can do this kind of hype.
Right.
Companies are now intensely focused on demonstrating clear return on investment and, importantly, actively working to address potential biases embedded in AI-driven decisions, especially in hiring. Addressing bias is a huge challenge with AI, isn't it?
Huge.
How is a major player like Santander Spain approaching this in practice? The article mentions them.
Santander specifically implemented AI-powered recruitment tools with the explicit goal of reducing bias and improving efficiency in their hiring process. So their system is actually designed to anonymize key identifying information on resumes during the initial screening stages.
Ah, interesting. So the AI is evaluating candidates purely based on relevant skills and experience without seeing things like maybe gender, age indicators, or where someone lives.
Exactly, that's the aim. The idea is to ensure that initial evaluation is based solely on merit, mitigating that unconscious bias that can so easily creep in during manual review.
Makes sense.
And they also use predictive analytics, powered by AI, to look at their existing workforce, identify potential skills gaps emerging down the line, and then recommend targeted upskilling programs for employees. It's sort of a dual approach supporting both fairer hiring and internal career development, which, ties right back into talent retention.
Yeah, that focus on skills and internal development leads us perfectly into major shakeup number 3. A significant shift towards skills-based hiring and boosting internal mobility within companies.
Hmm.
The article highlights this persistent shortage of digital talent in Spain, especially in those really high-demand areas like AI, cybersecurity, cloud computing.
And this shortage is fundamentally changing how companies think about finding and developing talent. Traditional degrees are becoming less of the sole gatekeeper.
Right.
Companies are increasingly prioritizing practical skills, demonstrated competencies, and maybe most importantly, a candidate's potential and willingness to learn.
So it's less about checking which university you attended 10 years ago and more about, okay, what can you do right now? What new tech stack have you mastered?
Right.
And how quickly can you pick up the next one?
Precisely. And this makes robust upskilling and reskilling programs absolutely non-negotiable. Companies realize they can't just hire their way out of the skills gap. They have to build capabilities internally. And related to this, internal talent marketplaces are gaining significant traction. These are basically platforms where employees can explore opportunities within the company.
An internal talent marketplace, like a company's own internal LinkedIn or job board, but focused on development.
Sort of, yeah.
The energy giant Repsol is presented as a strong example here.
They are. Repsol launched some quite ambitious upskilling and reskilling initiatives specifically designed to help their existing employees acquire the new skills needed as the energy sector transforms. This enables them to transition into new roles internally.
And how did that internal talent marketplace fit in? What impact did it have for them?
Well, they created this internal marketplace to provide visibility and structured pathways for employees to explore both lateral moves into different departments or functions and vertical moves into higher roles. And the results have apparently been compelling. It's significantly boosted employee engagement by offering clear career progression options, and critically, it's helped them address those specific, hard-to-fill technical skills gaps from within. The article points out this approach has actually reduced their external hiring time for technical positions and improved overall retention rates. Pretty significant.
That is significant.
Yeah.
And building skills internally also feels connected to the next major trend the article highlights: employee experience and well-being. That's major shakeup number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Those new labor laws we discussed earlier, they strongly reinforce the importance of work-life balance and the right to digital disconnection, right?
Yes, the legal framework is definitely putting a spotlight on this. But companies are also recognizing, independently that it's essential for productivity and retention. They are implementing policies and programs aimed at genuinely supporting mental health, preventing burnout, and ensuring employees feel empowered to actually disconnect from work outside of their contracted hours.
And this isn't just about sending an email saying, don't check Slack on weekends, presumably. It's about creating a culture and providing actual tools.
Exactly.
Inditex, the massive fashion group behind brands like Zara, is highlighted for taking a really comprehensive approach to well-being.
They have introduced quite wide-ranging well-being programs. This includes providing access to on-demand counseling services for employees, delivering specific training for managers on how to support team members' mental health, and building flexibility into work arrangements where possible.
And how are they making sure these programs are hitting the mark? Are they just sort of throwing things out there and hoping for the best?
No, the article notes they're leveraging employee feedback tools and sentiment analysis. They're actively listening to their workforce to understand what the real pressures are and then tailoring their well-being initiatives based on that data.
Smart.
And this personalized approach is proving much more effective, resulting in higher engagement and ultimately better productivity because employees feel genuinely supported, not just, told to relax.
That idea of flexible work arrangements naturally leads us to major shakeup number 5. Yeah. Flexible work models themselves and the ongoing challenge of compliance within those models. The article describes personalized hybrid models as pretty much the standard expectation now in Spain.
Yeah, companies seem to be past the initial can we even do this phase. Now they're operationalizing it. They're offering employees flexibility in where and sometimes when they work, but often balancing that with establishing core collaboration times where teams need to be available or potentially together in person.
Right. And the big challenge here, especially for large organizations or those with teams spread geographically, is ensuring that this flexibility doesn't create compliance headaches with those strict labor laws we talked about, especially around time tracking for remote workers.
Exactly. That's a huge concern. Ensuring compliance for remote and hybrid workers is a top priority. Telefonica, the major telecom company, is presented as an example of how to build robust systems to manage this complexity.
Okay, what specific steps did Telefonica take?
Well, they developed really detailed policies for remote and hybrid work. This includes explicit guidelines around digital disconnection, setting clear expectations for communication outside working hours.
Important.
Very. And implementing regular check-ins to proactively monitor employee well-being, recognizing the potential isolation of remote work. Their model allows employees a degree of choice in their work location, and crucially, all of this is underpinned by digital tools integrated to ensure seamless compliance with time tracking regulations, regardless of where the employee is actually working from.
That integration seems key. Okay, moving on. Major shakeup number 6 centers on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. The source emphasizes that DEI is increasingly seen not just as a corporate social responsibility initiative, but as a core business strategy in Spain.
That shift is critical. Companies are recognizing that building diverse and inclusive workforces isn't just the right thing to do, although it's essential for innovation, attracting talent, and reflecting their customer base. It's good business.
Right. So what practical actions are companies taking to embed DEI as a core strategy? What does that look like?
Well, the article points to leveraging technology, like the AI we discussed earlier, to help eliminate biases in hiring processes. That's one tangible thing. They're also implementing transparent pay equity policies to actively address wage gaps and, importantly, introducing new specific protocols and support systems for LGBTQI plus employees.
BBVA, the global bank, is highlighted as a company that has really embedded DEI into its fundamental operations.
Yes, BBVA is a strong example of that kind of integration. They've explicitly woven DEI goals into their broader business strategy. They use AI-driven analytics to monitor pay data and proactively identify and address any pay gaps, aiming for full transparency.
Okay.
They've also actively established and support employee resource groups, or ERGs. These are employee-led groups formed around shared characteristics or experiences. They provide support, community, and importantly, contribute back to company culture and policy. And yes, they've introduced specific measures and clear protocols to support their LGBTQI plus employees, including guidance on addressing harassment or discrimination, making it really clear these issues are taken seriously.
All of this, I mean, the AI, the skills matching, the well-being tracking, the DEI monitoring, it all seems to rely heavily on having good information.
Which brings us neatly to the final major trend the article discusses. Major shakeup number 7 is about HR becoming truly data-driven, leveraging people analytics.
Absolutely, you nailed it. HR functions are moving well beyond just administrative tasks now. They are using data and analytics strategically to measure the real impact of their initiatives, to forecast future workforce needs based on business strategy, and to personalize things like employee development plans.
And the article makes the point that having integrated HR technology platforms is absolutely central to enabling this transformation. You can't do it without the tech. Entirely. You just can't do sophisticated analytics with siloed, messy data from different systems. These integrated platforms allow companies to centralize employee data, automate compliance tasks more efficiently, and crucially, generate the comprehensive reports needed for strategic decision-making. Iberdrola, the large energy company, is highlighted for its effective use of data in HR.
Okay, how specifically is Iberdrola leveraging these platforms and data according to the source?
Well, they use integrated HR platforms as the backbone for managing all their centralized employee data. This automates many routine compliance tasks, which frees up HR time for more strategic work.
Makes sense.
More strategically, though, they use predictive analytics drawn from this data to forecast future skills needs within their workforce, driven by shifts in the energy market. And based on those predictions, they can then develop targeted training programs to ensure their employees have the skills required for the industry's evolution, ensuring they are, future ready.
So if we try and pull all of these threads together, the picture of Spain's HR landscape in 2025 is one of incredibly rapid adaptation, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Companies are simultaneously responding to significant legal changes, embracing technological disruption like AI, and fundamentally rethinking how they support and engage their people. It's a lot happening at once.
In these case studies, CaixaBank, Santander, Repsol, Inditex, Telefonica, BBA, Iberdrola, they give us really concrete examples of how companies are actually making this work in practice. It's moving beyond just theory.
Exactly. And what's genuinely insightful, I think, is the source emphasizes that the real key to success in this dynamic environment isn't just excelling at one or two of these things. It's the ability to successfully blend rigorous compliance with the new regulations, smart and ethical use of technology, and truly human-centric strategies focused on employee well-being, skills, and inclusion. That integrated approach seems to be what will define the thriving workplaces in Spain's new era of work.
We've covered a huge amount in this deep dive. I mean, from the shorter work week and mandatory digital tracking, to the ethical considerations of AI and hiring, the pivot to skills over degrees, prioritizing employee well-being and the right to disconnect, navigating complex, flexible work arrangements, making DEI a core business imperative, and finally, becoming truly data-driven in HR.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
We've seen how major Spanish companies are grappling with and adapting to these interconnected changes right now.
It's definitely a compelling snapshot of how the world of work is evolving, not just in Spain, maybe.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to consider. These major shifts we've explored today in Spain, the intense focus on working hours and transparent tracking, the practical need to address AI bias in people processes, the move towards valuing demonstrated skills and learning potential over purely traditional qualifications.
The heightened emphasis on employee well-being and the ability to genuinely disconnect, the drive to make HR truly data-driven.
Right, all of that. These aren't necessarily unique to Spain, are they? Based on global trends, they could very well be previews of the future of work landscape emerging in many other places. So the question for you is, how might you start thinking about and preparing for these kinds of changes regardless of where you are right now?